Have you ever felt like you're just a cog in a machine at work? Like there has to be a better, more human, more soulful way for us to work together. Well, today we're going to explore a really radical new model for how organizations can work, and it's all based on some pretty groundbreaking research. So let's dive in. The legendary management guru Peter Drucker really just hit the nail on the head with this one. Our world is constantly churning, always in turbulence, right? But so many of our organizations are still running on an operating system that's like 100 years old. It's like trying to run the latest AI software on a computer from the 90s. It just doesn't work. So this begs a really important question. Is our current way of thinking, yesterday's logic, the very thing that's holding us all back? Could we create something so much better just by changing our fundamental beliefs about what work is and what it could be? To really understand where we could be going, we first have to get real about where most of us are right now. And for a lot of people, that place feels like what the source material calls the soulless machine. Does any of this sound familiar? The constant political games, the bureaucratic sludge that slows everything down, that awful feeling that your real potential is just being completely wasted? Even in fields people feel called to, like teaching or nursing, people are burning out because the system prevents them from doing the very work they signed up to do. This quote, which is often credited to Henry Ford, just perfectly captures that machine logic, doesn't it? It sees people as resources, as interchangeable parts. Your creativity, your passion, your ideas. Oh, that's a bug in the system, not a feature. So how in the world did we get here? Well, it wasn't some huge mistake. Our current model is actually just one stage in a long and frankly fascinating history of human collaboration. Let's take a quick look at how these models have evolved over time. So the core idea is this. Just as human consciousness evolves, so do our organizations. We don't just get a little better bit by bit, we actually make these sudden, dramatic leaps. Think of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. It's not just a bigger caterpillar, it's something entirely new. And each leap unlocks incredible new capabilities. Researchers have mapped out these stages using colors, which is pretty helpful. We started way back with red organizations, basically wolf packs ruled by a strong leader through fear. Then came amber organizations, which were all about formal, rigid hierarchies, like an army. The next huge leap brought us to orange, and this is the modern corporation we all know, viewed as a machine driven by innovation and profit. More recently, we've seen the rise of green organizations. These are more like a family, focusing on culture and empowerment. And while green is a wonderful step forward, it can sometimes get stuck trying to get everyone to agree on everything, which kind of sets the stage for what comes next. And you can really see this evolution in action when you look at the jump from amber to orange. The motivation completely shifts from fear, the stick, to the promise of rewards and incentives, the carrot. Now, this change unleashed massive innovation, but it's also the exact model that gives us that cog in a machine feeling. But what if we're on the verge of another one of those massive leaps? A leap that addresses the soul-crushing parts of the old models? Well, a new stage of consciousness seems to be emerging, and it's bringing a whole new organizational model with it. The source material calls it Evolutionary-Teal. So these teal organizations are built on three what you might call core breakthroughs: self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose. Let's break down what each of these actually means. First up, self-management. This gets rid of the old, rigid pyramid hierarchy. And no, it's not chaos. It's actually a sophisticated system of peer relationships that gives people a ton of autonomy. It lets decisions be made faster and smarter, right where the work is actually happening. The second breakthrough is wholeness. Think about it. Most of us show up to work wearing a professional mask. Teal organizations create a safe space for our full humanity to show up. And when that happens, you get this explosion of trust, creativity, and engagement. It unlocks all the potential that the old models just leave sitting at the door. And finally, there's evolutionary purpose. Now, instead of rigid, top-down, 5-year plans, teal organizations are seen as living systems that have their own direction, their own calling. And the goal for everyone in the organization is to listen for that purpose and help it unfold. This leads to incredible agility and impact, especially in a world that changes so fast. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a little abstract, maybe a bit idealistic, but it's really not. There are pioneering organizations all over the world that are already working this way. So let's look at a couple of real-world examples.
So meet Buurtzorg. It's a home care organization in the Netherlands. They have over 7,000 nurses, and get this, they are organized into small, self-managing teams of about 10 to 12, and they have no middle management. Zero. None. Each team runs its own show, everything from finding new patients to scheduling to all the administrative stuff.
And the results? They are absolutely staggering. By empowering nurses to build real human relationships with their patients and help them get their independence back, Buurtzorg uses only half of the care hours that doctors typically prescribe. They're getting better patient outcomes with half the resources. It's incredible. This quote from one of their nurses just says it all, doesn't it? The old system was totally disconnected. Nobody felt responsible. This new system puts trust and responsibility right back where it belongs, with the people who are actually doing the work. So how on earth do they make decisions without bosses? Well, they use this brilliantly simple but powerful tool called the advice process. The gist is anyone can make any decision. But, and this is a big but, before they do, they have to seek advice from colleagues who are going to be affected by it or who have real expertise. It's not about getting approval or building consensus. It's about making a truly informed choice. Okay, now let's look at that evolutionary purpose idea in action with a company you've probably heard of, Patagonia. Their purpose, to save our home planet, isn't just a catchy slogan on a poster. It is the filter through which every single business decision is made. This is just perfectly captured in their famous "Don't buy this jacket" ad. I mean, think about it. What kind of company tells its customers to buy less stuff? A company that is truly, deeply listening to its purpose, even when it might conflict with short-term profits. That's evolutionary purpose in a nutshell. So, the really crucial point here is that Teal isn't just a new set of management tools or practices that you can, download and install. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. It's a whole new way of being at work. Let's just take the classic budget process. In a typical orange organization, it's all about predicting and controlling. It's a political game of negotiating targets. But in a Teal organization, it's about sensing and responding. Teams just make requests based on what they actually need to achieve their purpose. As one Teal company puts it, they'd much rather be making money without knowing exactly how than losing money while knowing precisely why. And that really brings us to the final thought here. This shift to Teal isn't a blueprint that you can just copy and paste. It's a new consciousness to inhabit, one that sees our organizations not as machines we have to control, but as living, breathing systems with their own potential to evolve. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what would it take for your world of work to make that leap?